The air in the funeral home was thick with the scent of lilies and unspoken grief. Nolan's face, serene in death, held a haunting familiarity, like a photograph from a happier time. But the chilling message scrawled on the back of the family photo, resting on his chest, shattered the illusion of peace. "Run away now," it warned, sending a shiver down my spine. As I turned, my mother-in-law's cold gaze met mine, and I knew this wasn't just a funeral. It was the opening act of a nightmare. "Please wake up," I whispered, gazing at my husband's serene face as he lay in his casket. His peaceful expression almost fooled me into thinking he was merely asleep, ready to stir at any moment. "Well, off I go," his cheerful voice echoed in my mind, bidding farewell to me and our daughter before embarking on his business trip just 2 days prior. Little did I know it would be the last time I heard his voice. His sudden departure from this world, by his hand, left me in disbelief. No matter how desperately I called out to him, he remained silent. His once warm presence now felt as cold as ice. As I struggled to come to terms with the grim reality, something caught my eye, a solitary photograph resting on his chest. It was a family picture, but one I didn't recall placing there. Who could have placed it, and why? Intrigued and unnerved, I picked up the photo, turning it over to find a chilling message scrawled on the back. "Run away now." A shiver ran down my spine as I turned to find my mother-in-law's cold gaze fixed upon me. At that moment, I realized I had unwittingly stumbled into a nightmare from which there was no easy escape. I'm Ophelia, 34 years old, and my journey through life has been marked by both tragedy and love. Losing both my parents in a car accident while I was still in college left me feeling utterly alone in the world. The weight of grief seemed insurmountable. Fortunately, Nolan, my boyfriend at the time, became my pillar of support. After graduating, we tied the knot, finding solace and happiness in each other's company. Our little family expanded with the arrival of our daughter, Ember, who brought immeasurable joy into our lives. Our family circle extended to include my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, forming a tight-knit support system. Sadly, the passing of my father-in-law a year ago left a void in our hearts. His sudden demise, attributed to what was initially termed an illness, but revealed to be a fatal heart attack, shook us all profoundly. Despite the loss, financial worries never haunted us thanks to the prosperous business my in-laws managed. Originally, my father-in-law had envisioned his capable and compassionate younger brother taking the reins as CEO. However, fate intervened, claiming him before his plans could materialize. Consequently, the responsibility fell upon my brother-in-law, the eldest son, to lead the family's business legacy forward. Dad wanted me to take over, but I couldn't possibly do that over my older brother. "I'll support him." My husband's reverence for his brother ran deep, leading him to gracefully step aside from the CEO position. His respect for family hierarchy was unwavering. My brother-in-law, in turn, displayed genuine kindness towards me, often engaging in friendly conversations while our bond blossomed. My interactions with my mother-in-law were marked by a noticeable strain. Initially, my mother-in-law extended warmth towards me, even bonding over cooking sessions, expressing how much she cherished our time together. Her affectionate gestures painted a picture of familial harmony. However, with my father-in-law's passing, a frosty silence enshrouded her demeanor. Both my husband and I felt the chill of her withdrawal. Her once warm gaze now evaded ours. Even her daughter, Ember, accustomed to adoration as the first grandchild, faced her grandmother's icy reception, met with disapproving glances and curt responses. "She used to be such a sweet person," my husband lamented, his disappointment palpable. Witnessing his distress, my heart ached with sympathy. "Something seems off about Mom," my husband voiced his concerns, furrowing his brows in deep contemplation. "She's glaring at me as if I'm her enemy. Could she think we're after her assets, or maybe she's unwell?" Despite his introspection, he couldn't pinpoint a plausible explanation for her sudden change in demeanor. The shift first became apparent during my father-in-law's one-week memorial service. Exhausted from the solemn proceedings, we sought respite at her home. However, our tranquility was shattered when we awoke to find our bag of clothes missing from the room. Could it be a bird? I pondered aloud. But the selective disappearance of our belongings cast doubt on that theory. As we scoured the house, a plume of smoke billowed from the backyard, drawing our attention. To our disbelief, we discovered our possessions ablaze, and there stood my mother-in-law. "Mom, did you do this?" we implored, seeking an explanation for her inexplicable actions, but she remained silent. Her wide-eyed gaze and trembling hands betrayed her fear. "Why, Mom? What have we done to deserve this hostility?" We pleaded for answers, but her lips remained sealed, leaving us grappling with uncertainty and confusion. Despite her stoic silence, Nolan extended a hand of understanding to his mother. His voice was laced with gentle reassurance. "You're not worried about us going after your assets, are you? I'm not interested in your possessions. Please believe me, mother-in-law. We only want what's best for you." However, our pleas fell on deaf ears as my mother-in-law sternly commanded, "Leave, both of you, and don't return." With heavy hearts, we departed, our once close bond with her fractured, reduced to mere remnants of what it once was. For the past year, we maintained a distant relationship. Our attempts at reconciliation met with resistance from my mother-in-law's unwavering animosity. Then, out of the blue, a message from my brother-in-law beckoned us to the first anniversary memorial service for my father-in-law. Despite my mother-in-law's continued coldness, we decided to attend, hoping for a glimpse of reconciliation. Yet, her aloofness persisted, serving as a painful reminder of the chasm that now separated us. Witnessing Nolan's contemplative expression amid the familial discord, I couldn't help but wonder about the thoughts brewing in his mind. "What's on your mind, Nolan? Are you concerned about your mother?" I inquired softly, sensing the weight of his thoughts. With a gentle touch, Nolan reassured me. "Don't worry, Ophelia. If anything is troubling you, just let me know." His tender gesture, brushing away my worries, brought a sense of calm to my troubled heart. His comforting presence was a balm to my anxieties. A month passed, filled with the familiar routines of family life. As Nolan prepared for another business trip, his cheerful demeanor lifted our spirits. However, his sudden return caught me off guard. With a small charm in hand, he bestowed it upon me, a gesture of protection. His smile, warm and reassuring, filled me with gratitude for the love we shared. Yet the tranquility was shattered by a harrowing turn of events. The next day brought the shocking news of Nolan's untimely death. His lifeless body was discovered in his car on a remote mountain road near my parents' home in Colorado. The circumstances surrounding his demise puzzled and devastated me. Contrary to his claims of a business trip, there were no scheduled engagements. Instead, his final moments were marked by a heart-wrenching call to my brother-in-law, confessing unbearable pain and a desire to end his suffering. The revelation left me reeling with guilt and confusion. I blamed myself for failing to recognize his anguish, grappling with unanswered questions and an overwhelming sense of loss. Beside his lifeless form, I felt my strength waning, but my brother-in-law's steadfast support steadied me in the face of despair. "Stay," he urged, his presence a beacon of solace in the darkness of grief. "Ophelia, stay strong." My brother-in-law's voice wavered with emotion, mirroring the turmoil in my own heart. I wish I had understood Nolan's pain better. Why did this happen? The weight of sorrow bore down on me, compounded by Ember's tears as she clung to me for solace. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's stoic glare offered no comfort, her expression devoid of tears amidst our collective grief. My brother-in-law and Nolan's colleagues took charge of the funeral arrangements, their somber efficiency a stark contrast to the overwhelming emotions engulfing me. "Please wake up," I whispered to Nolan on the day of his funeral. His serene visage in the casket blinded me to the finality of his passing. It felt as though he could stir from slumber at any moment if only I called out to him. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I held on to him tightly, seeking refuge in his familiar presence. Amid my sorrow, a glimmer of curiosity stirred within me as I noticed a lone photograph resting on Nolan's chest. Who could place it there, and what significance did it hold in this moment of profound loss? Intrigued, I lifted the photograph, only to find Nolan's face marred by ruthless slashes from a cutter. My heart quickened as I read the ominous message scrawled on the back, "Run away now." Questions swirled in my mind. Who was the intended recipient of this chilling warning? As a shiver ran down my spine, I turned to find my mother-in-law's icy stare fixed upon me, her gaze piercing through me with unnerving intensity. Could she be involved? The tension thickened as she hastily looked away upon meeting my gaze, sparking a surge of suspicion within me. Discreetly, I slipped the photograph into the pocket of my dress, determined to unravel the mystery. In the aftermath of the funeral, amidst the quietude that followed, my thoughts kept returning to the cryptic message in the photograph. Though the sender remained elusive, the initial clues hinted at a possible connection. The only person I could think of was Luna, my mother-in-law. "It's not at me," I challenged, questioning the narrative of Nolan's untimely demise. Desperate for answers, I resolved to confront my mother-in-law, bracing myself for the confrontation ahead. As I stepped into her home, my mother-in-law's demeanor remained as frosty as ever. With my brother-in-law absent at work, it was just the two of us in the solemn silence. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" she inquired, her tone guarded. "I was hoping to uncover some insights into Nolan's passing. Perhaps there's a clue here in his childhood home," I replied, my words tinged with uncertainty, lacking the courage to confront her directly. I found myself fabricating a reason for my visit, searching for a distraction. My gaze wandered to the towering bookshelf dominating the living room, a testament to the family's love for literature. It housed not only novels but also encyclopedias and dictionaries. Among them, I spotted a few volumes from Nolan's student days, evoking a wave of nostalgia. Curiosity getting the better of me, I reached for a couple of books, each adorned with a stamped initial indicating ownership. Besides Nolan's J was a small, endearing image of a cuddling cat. The sight warmed my heart, a reminder of his gentle nature that always brought a smile to my face. As I perused the books, I couldn't shake off the palpable weight of my mother-in-law's gaze boring into my back. Amidst the sea of familiar titles, one book stood out, still clad in its cover. As I gingerly opened it, I discovered Tom on Poisonous Plants, its pages adorned with numerous post-it notes. My heart skipped a beat as I stumbled upon a note detailing the very poison that claimed my husband's life. The book bore a stamp of ownership, a damning piece of evidence that left me reeling. Summoning all my courage, I turned to my mother-in-law, brandishing the book before her. Her stoic facade crumbled as tears streamed down her face. "I'm the one responsible. Please forgive me," she choked out amidst sobs. The revelation sent shockwaves through me, but there was no time for hesitation. "We need to inform the authorities," I insisted, my voice trembling with urgency. With a heavy heart, I relayed the truth to the police. As I grappled with the gravity of the situation, my brother-in-law arrived home, oblivious to the turmoil that had unfolded. Concern etched upon his features. He questioned the somber atmosphere, his eyes darting between me and my tearful mother-in-law. "What's happened? Why is Ophelia here? Please tell me," he implored, his voice laced with apprehension. I wanted to talk to my mother-in-law about my husband," I stammered, my words faltering as I struggled to find the right way to broach the subject. Understanding washed over my brother-in-law's face as he listened. "Losing him must have been incredibly difficult for you. Are you feeling any better now, Ophelia?" he inquired gently, his concern palpable. Unable to meet his gaze, I hesitated, grappling with the weight of unspoken truths. Before I could utter a word, my brother-in-law's unexpected confession caught me off guard. "I know this isn't the time, but I've always harbored feelings for you, Ophelia and Ember. She's just so precious to me. Would you ever consider giving us a chance, starting anew?" His words hung in the air, surprising me with their sincerity. I never imagined my brother-in-law harboring such feelings. "Thank you, but I can't even fathom such thoughts right now," I replied, my voice tinged with gratitude and regret. Understanding flickered in his eyes as he accepted my response. Awkwardly scratching his head, he took the photograph from my outstretched hand. "I'm sorry," he murmured, his gaze falling upon the image of my husband's battered face and the ominous message scrawled on its reverse. As the reality of the photograph's contents sank in, my brother-in-law's complexion paled, a gasp escaping his lips. This was inside Nolan's coffin. Who could have done such a thing? His shock mirrored my own as we grappled with the sinister implications of the discovery. "Someone at the funeral may know what happened to Nolan," I mused aloud, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together in my mind. "Wait a moment. Nolan took his own life, so there's no perpetrator to speak of," I reasoned, trying to quell the rising unease. However, my brother-in-law appeared perplexed, his agitation palpable as he shifted uneasily. But in my dreams, Nolan's voice echoes, accusing someone of betrayal and expressing hatred, I divulged, watching as his eyes widened in shock, his features contorting with alarm as if confronted with a horrifying revelation. And I found this, I continued, retrieving the damning evidence from the living room bookshelf. As I handed him the book on poisonous plants with incriminating notes, his expression morphed into one of profound concern, realizing the gravity of the situation. I presented the book on poisonous plants that I had discovered earlier, pointing out the bookplate bearing my brother-in-law's name, indicated by the stamped letter K. "What are you insinuating? Are you suggesting that I murdered my brother?" my brother-in-law demanded, his voice tinged with disbelief. Instead of answering, I pressed on with my revelation. Beside me, my mother-in-law remained silent, her gaze fixed on the unfolding drama. "And there's more," I declared, retrieving the charm my husband had given me. Carefully, I extracted a letter concealed within its contents. The letter sent shockwaves through the room. "Hey, pause for a moment. Would you care to support us? Like this video and subscribe for more? Now let's dive back into the story." "My brother killed our father with a poisonous plant," I announced, my voice trembling with the weight of the truth. Amidst the somber atmosphere of my husband's funeral, I had come to the charm he had gifted me, finding solace in its tangible reminder of his love. "Yes," I held it, a faint suspicion nudging at my consciousness. Could there be something hidden within? "From the outer covering, that's hardly substantial evidence," my brother-in-law scoffed dismissively. As I retrieved a small object concealed within the charm, I undid it. I produced my phone and played a video that revealed a damning conversation between my husband and my brother-in-law. In the footage, my brother-in-law confessed to intentionally ending his father's life. He assured my husband that he harbored no ill intent toward our family and vowed to turn himself into the authorities. It was a shocking revelation that left me reeling with a mixture of regret and fury. My husband, in an act of foresight, had clandestinely recorded the conversation by setting up a camera in their parents' house, a fact detailed in the accompanying letter. As I absorbed the gravity of the situation, my heart burned with a potent blend of emotions. "You admitted your crime to my husband, then urged him to turn you in, only to take his life with the same poisonous plant, didn't you?" I confronted my brother-in-law, the weight of betrayal heavy in my voice. "Nolan trusted you until the very end. Why would you commit such a heinous act?" As I pressed him for answers, my brother-in-law's demeanor shifted. His once gentle countenance contorted into a terrifying visage as he clicked his tongue in frustration, his eyes flashing with anger. In that tense moment, my mother-in-law's anguish erupted into tears, her sobs filling the room. "Why? How could you do something so cruel?" she cried out, her confession echoing the painful truth of her complicity. It dawned on me then that the origins of this tragedy were rooted in the bond between the brothers. Despite their closeness in childhood, resentment had poisoned my brother-in-law's heart over time, leading to a series of petty pranks aimed at undermining his talented younger sibling, Nolan. My in-laws had always maintained strict discipline with my brother-in-law, aware of his penchant for mischief. Despite this, Nolan never harbored any resentment towards his brother, instead choosing to admire and support him. This unwavering loyalty only deepened my mother-in-law's sense of dismay. Following my father-in-law's sudden demise while tidying the bookshelf, my mother-in-law stumbled upon a book detailing poisonous plants. Despite the diagnosis of a heart attack, Nolan had never displayed any prior heart issues during his medical checkups, leaving me with a lingering sense of unease. It was then that she noticed a bookmark nestled within the book, detailing the exact symptoms my husband had experienced before his passing. A revelation that sent shockwaves through me. Even more alarming was my brother-in-law's intense fascination with the book on poisonous plants, a detail that did not escape my notice. To add to the growing list of unsettling discoveries, my mother-in-law unearthed a photograph of Nolan's disfigured face hidden within the pages of the book, further deepening the mystery surrounding his untimely demise. Despite her suspicions, my mother-in-law hesitated to confront my brother-in-law without concrete evidence, knowing he would likely deny any wrongdoing. At my father-in-law's memorial service during our visit to the family home, My mother-in-law was visibly shaken to discover my brother-in-law burning our belongings. Fearing for our safety, she chose to distance herself from us, her demeanor growing cold and distant. In a moment of desperation, she confided in me, her voice strained with anguish as she explained her actions. Her face etched with worry lines, I struggled to find the right words to comfort her. Even after we stopped visiting, she recounted how my brother-in-law's behavior grew increasingly ominous. He muttered to himself, "I have to do something about Nolan," leaving me deeply concerned. I recounted how I had tried to warn my husband at his first memorial, using the photo from the book about poisonous plants as a covert means of communication. I had also whispered to Nolan about the possibility that his brother, Ken, may have been responsible for their father's death. Unfortunately, it seemed her attempt to warn my husband had backfired. If he hadn't been aware, he might not have confronted my brother-in-law, and perhaps things wouldn't have escalated to this extent. My mother-in-law and I were overwhelmed with regret, each of us blaming ourselves for the unfolding tragedy. I struggled to find the right words to respond to her anguish. "It's all because our father refused to let me take over the company," my brother-in-law interjected bitterly, deflecting blame onto our deceased father. "But Nolan always stood up for you, insisting that he couldn't become president by sidelining you." I couldn't contain my frustration. "As if that matters. Both our father and Nolan loved you. There was no need for you to resort to such drastic measures." "What's the point now?" I exclaimed, my voice tinged with a mixture of anger and despair. Defiant, my brother-in-law dismissed our accusations with a chilling expression. "Blame the parents who favored my younger brother and the facade of the good son, Nolan. It's all your fault," he retorted, his words sending shivers down my spine. "You've taken away my beloved husband. I'll never forgive you." I saw my anger boiling over, and my brother-in-law's callous actions ignited my fury. "Shut up! If you hadn't interfered, you could have been my wife," he spat back venomously, his words dripping with malice. Suddenly he lunged at me with a knife he had concealed, the glint of metal sending a chill down my spine. Panicked, I screamed for help and attempted to flee, but he was relentless, swiftly closing the distance between us. With nowhere left to run, I found myself cornered, facing the sharp edge of the blade. Instinctively, I shut my eyes, bracing for the worst. Then a resounding thud echoed through the room as someone intervened to shield me from harm. To my astonishment, it was my mother-in-law. "Mother-in-law, are you hurt?" I gasped, seeing her grimace as blood trickled from her injured arm. "Ken, please stop this madness. Turn yourself in," she pleaded, her voice trembling with urgency. "Shut up, both of you. You're the ones who need to disappear," my brother-in-law snarled, his rage unabated. "Why would you go to such lengths, especially now that you've achieved your dream of becoming CEO?" I implored, struggling to understand his motives amidst the chaos. "I need money," my brother-in-law confessed, his desperation palpable. Despite assuming control of the company, he lacked the business acumen to manage it, burdening himself with mounting debts. Within a year, in a desperate bid to alleviate his financial woes, he resorted to taking out a hefty life insurance policy on my husband, his younger brother. "It's amusing. Nolan believed my lies so easily even when I pretended to confess," my brother-in-law chuckled bitterly, his laughter tinged with malice. I recoiled in disgust at his callous demeanor, but even in his deceit, he remained cautious, ensuring that Nolan didn't consume the drink he had offered as a farewell toast. "Who cares, farewell?" he sneered, his suspicions of poisonous herbs evident. Yet he did shake Nolan's hand, unwittingly transferring traces of the lethal substance. "Nolan had a habit of licking his fingers, so it's no surprise the poison began to take effect during the car ride home," my brother-in-law boasted, his voice filled with a twisted sense of triumph as he brandished a knife before us. "Despite everything, my husband still wanted to save you. Why couldn't you understand his compassion?" I exclaimed, frustration seeping into my voice. "Blame my parents for favoring Nolan over me," my brother-in-law retorted defiantly, deflecting responsibility onto others. The tension reached its peak. The arrival of the police brought an end to the harrowing ordeal. Despite their intervention, my brother-in-law continued to struggle until the very end. My brother-in-law's desperate pleas fell on deaf ears as he gasped and finally succumbed to the authorities. His tumultuous outburst quelled. Thankfully, my mother-in-law's injury proved to be minor and she was quickly on the path to recovery. As my brother-in-law was escorted away by the police, it became clear that he harbored no remorse for his actions, leaving little doubt that he would face a lengthy sentence behind bars. With him out of our lives, I found solace in the comfort of my mother-in-law's embrace. Returning to her former self, my mother-in-law showered affection upon my daughter, Ember, and me. Together we forged a sense of familial harmony, finding happiness in each other's company. And as I revisited the letter concealed within the charm my husband had given me, its heartfelt message served as a poignant reminder of his enduring love. Ophelia, you are my treasure. I love you always. Embracing my husband's enduring affection, I resolved to carry on, finding strength in his unwavering love and the bond shared between us. Let's conclude the story shortly. The weight of Nolan's absence remained, a constant ache in my heart, but with his memory as my guide, I vowed to live a life filled with love, laughter, and strength. Ember, my precious daughter, became my anchor, her innocent eyes reflecting the resilience of our family. My mother-in-law, now free from the shadow of her son's deceit, found solace in our newfound closeness. We rebuilt our bond, brick by brick, sharing stories of Nolan and cherishing the memories we held dear. The business, now under the guidance of a trusted advisor, flourished. Nolan's legacy lived on, not only in the company's success, but also in the hearts of those he touched. Life moved forward, carrying the scars of tragedy, but also the enduring power of love. Nolan's voice, though silent, remained a constant whisper in my ear, reminding me to cherish each moment, embrace life's uncertainties, and never let go of the hope that even in the darkest of times, love can find a way to bloom again. After experiencing the full journey of our story, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How did the story resonate with you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay blessed. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.